Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I'd like to continue on with the 31 days of cop films and gangster films from the year 1970 to the present day. And as I've mentioned before, that is, I admit, a wide expanse of years, but hopefully at the same time, my hope is that that will also afford us, you and I, with the opportunity to talk about as many films as possible. And so I hope that we can talk about many films over the course of the 31 days, including the films that I have or I would like to discuss for purposes of today. And specifically for this video, I am focusing in on the gangster film element or genre. And as we know, there are many examples of this genre, many great examples, many exciting, thrilling, captivating works, each in its own way, just quite absorbing. And here is another great one, in my opinion, and the opinion of many others I know. This is a work which is sometimes described as being from, say, 1979, sometimes described as being from 1980, but it is around this time. The particular physical media copy that I'm about to show indicates 1979, but as I say, sometimes 1980, etc., but due to the release dates, etc. But whatever the case may be, we are dealing with a sterling film that is very heavy, very gritty, very cool, very rough in a brilliant poetic way, with ferocity and a force of life and death and viciousness and a type of bravura. And I think it has to do with the scene and the environment and the feeling and atmosphere and the story and the mystery and the violence and the betrayal and the unknowns and the knowns, as well as the towering performances by the actors involved, in particular our main characters. And I'll get to that momentarily. But before I do, I should introduce the film itself, because we are talking about that great film directed by John Mackenzie, and this is with music by Francis Monkman, and I'll talk about the music as well. This is one of the great aspects of this film. Barry Keefe, screenplay writer, and it has for its cast great actors such as Eddie Constantine and Helen Mirren, and starring the one, the only Bob Hoskins. Bob Hoskins plays Harold Shan, the one, the only Harold Shan in this work, which is The Long Good Friday. And this is the Criterion Collection DVD of this great work, and the DVD here indicates the year 1979, by the way. But in any event, we have this film, A Long Good Friday. Now, A Long Good Friday is a gangster film. It is a film set in England and primarily in London, and it's focusing in on this thrilling, towering character, larger than life, truly larger than life figure in this film that just inhabits the screen and is so packed with this high intensity voltage, character voltage that is undeniable, that is cool, that is very dangerous, that is charming, and that is innocent as well as being very non-innocent, and naive as well as being very sharp and intelligent, as well as having a sense of earnestness in terms of his plans and him trying to deal with these unexpected, tumultuous circumstances that arise before him. So I'm speaking, of course, of the Bob Hoskins character, who is Harold Shan, and his place as a gangster, a London gangster, but who is also trying to, quote unquote, go legitimate with various investment enterprises and the like. And he is trying to, in a sense, impress future potential business partners or investors, as represented by the characters, for instance, played by Eddie Constantine, etc. And we have also his personal and professional relationship with the Helen Mirren character Victoria. And so Harold and Victoria, through the great performances by Bob Hoskins and Helen Mirren, they form a critical emotional a backbone with a great and sincere closeness and a very sharp-tuned alignment that is also a type of emotional core of the film. Helen Mirren's performance here and her depiction as Victoria is truly brilliant, and she shows there's a sense of reliance on her character. There's a sense too of her ability to observe intelligently the world around her, as well as try to understand the psychologies of the characters, in particular the psychology of Harold, and she can adapt and also help and assist, as well as lead the way where necessary. And that is a great counter and a great parallel weight and counterweight to the character of Harold, the Bob Hoskins character, because this character, as I say, is so filled with energy and life and livelihood, and when he's on the screen, he really fills the screen. When he's seen walking through a particular landscape or room, you can feel the vibrations from his very steps, and when he makes some kind of proclamation or announcement to further his own, say, illegitimate or legitimate means, whatever the case may be, you can really feel the heat of the presence of his orders and his word, which has this undercurrent of menace and also almost a playful, boyish charm as well. That is the great thing about Bob Hoskins and his performances overall throughout his great career, including his performance here as Harold, one of the greats in terms of this London gangster who has a type of earnest attempt at trying to, quote-unquote, go legitimate. And the part of the plot here is to see his efforts at trying to do so. And sometimes those efforts involve, as I was indicating earlier, very criminal or morally scrupulous or illegitimate means. And that also has to do with the fact that his world is falling apart, and we see the cracks, and not just the cracks, we see the explosive holes that are emerging, that are erupting, that are crumbling before him with regard to vis-a-vis himself and the world around him. And we see those outbursts of violence and energy and chaos and destruction confront him. And he, along with Victoria and others, have to try to figure out why this is happening. What is going on that is potentially going to upset his otherwise legitimately linked apple cart. And that it forms part of the mystery to this as well, and he has to dig deep to his criminal roots to find the source or the potential source for all this chaos that is happening and erupting in order to find out the root cause of this and also to hopefully put a stop to it before it's too late. And so that also propels him through a type of underworld journey that is filled with explosions, that is filled with betrayal and violence, and also the unknown. There are so many unknowns, but given all these seemingly disadvantageous circumstances that confront a character like Harold, one of the really eye-popping experiences of watching this film is to see how he reacts, how Harold reacts to each situation. And depending on the particular circumstances and depending on what he discovers, he might turn volatile, he might try to adapt, he might try to do this or that. But whatever the permutation, whatever the end result is, it is truly mesmerizing indeed. Mesmerizing, haunting, hypnotizing, and captivating. And that is due, I think, in large part to the Bob Hoskins performance. There are also brilliant aspects to the cinematic craft here as well. The way that the landscape is portrayed, there is a liveliness in terms of the motion. At the same time, there is a sense of the bleak, and there's a sense of almost the nihilism that you can feel tangible or palpable in the very air that is being breathed in and out by the characters that inhabit this world. And you can, it's really, it has that bleak quality to it, which is so fitting with this film and the subject matter, because in many ways it is a type of bleak film. However, along the way we have, as I say, these set pieces of violence and eruption and explosive shocks. And that shocked not just us, the viewers, but also the characters that I say inhabit this world. So that is one of the great mixtures, if you will, balancing acts of different counter agents of cinematic stylings and tones that I think make for a really grand combination indeed. And that's due to the great direction and the filmmaking craft of John Mackenzie and company. And then also we have and that's also, I think, supported on too by the wonderful maneuverings of the plot and character dynamics. I mean, this is a story that is so easy to follow in terms of the places it goes A, B, and C, and D. At the same time, there are so many things in the background, so many things that are hinted at that I think have really add a sense of depth to the world, and also provide nuanced links to the socio-political fabric of London and England in the late 1970s into the early 1980s. And that also has to do with a type of maybe political or aspect to the what might be said to be related to the political landscape of the times. And then also there is an element of the plot that may be a potential source of antagonism, let's put it that way, with regard to Harold and his efforts, and how that might be said to also be linked to the socio-political landscape of the times. And this is a very key aspect of the plot, as well as providing background and nuance, as well as giving this film that socio-political context of the late 1970s. So it serves the purpose so well, and the maneuverings of the character within this space is so brilliantly laid out. You can follow and you can understand how their psychologies lead them to the choices that we end up seeing the results of unfold and crumble and explode before our very eyes. It's a really a brilliantly bombastic combination, let's put it that way. So the stylings and the structure is top notch and wonderful to follow, at the same time suggesting a real depth and complexity that is both historical and psychological. And that's not all, too, because we also have wonderful bursts of dialogue and monologue, and some of those great bursts of dialogue from characters like Harold. I mean, these are iconic. The lines here are just, there are so many classic lines, and so you're in for a real treat in terms of the way that language is used as well. Also, I have to say, the music of this, the theme song and the various themes or variations on that theme, the Francis Monkman work. This is really iconic stuff. I must emphasize this again. The music is really iconic stuff. Once you have seen this film and you watch the opening credits with that iconic theme laid over, you can never shake that from your memory. And that's a great thing, because it's a song and a theme song that is so... It's cool, it has this great beat and tempo to it, and it feels fresh and vibrant and alive, and also there's a hint of the haunting and even the tragic, as well as the violent and the dangerous and the urgent. There's a real coolness and an urgency, a retro hip urgency about the theme and the music as well, that is so fitting. The landscape and the dynamic, and Harold and Bob Hoskins and Helen Mirren, it fits so well into this universe. And I don't want to give too much away, but let me just say that from the opening moments to the middle parts, all the way through as the running time progresses to the very end and the climax and the final closing moments, and then it hits, it goes blank, and then we have the end and the final roll of the film. You go from point to point to point to ultimately final point, and that music follows, and the way that it punctuates and follows, wow. You watch it to the very end, my friends, and if you're watching it for the first time, I mean, it leaves such an impression all the way to the very end. Let me just put it that way. The impression that it leaves behind, combined with the cinematic aspects, the style, the performances, in particular the performance by Bob Hoskins and others, but those total combinations, as punctuated by that score, all the way up to the very final moment. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And so you are in for a real treat indeed. If you haven't seen this film already, I so encourage you to do so. If you enjoy the gangster film genre and you haven't seen The Long Good Friday, oh, please, please do so. This is one of the best, and it'll make you a fan of Bob Hoskins. It'll make you a fan of Helen Mirren. It'll make you a fan of great British films, great British gangster films that have this wonderful earned quality about them, and have this great ability to entertain through and through. With high voltage, high energy, kinetic performances, and all around great cinema stylings. This is the film, which is The Long Good Friday. Okay, my dear friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I very, very much appreciate it. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.